next week, I mean, we're talking Canes Gators, man. Yeah, that's right.
On the cusp.
Right.
Real action.
So, yeah, we're on the cusp. Tonight, you get some preseason football. We actually have an abbreviated show today. You're going to have our Game Day Uncensored show with Brendan Tobin, Alejandro Solana, and that'll start at 3:30 this afternoon. And I will head to Tampa. I always go where the Dolphins are playing preseason. Doesn't matter, overseas or whatever. I'm like, how people follow around the Grateful Dead, Deadheads. I'm a Dolphin head. I'm a Fin head, and I follow them around. So I'll be up in Tampa. Very excited. There's a lot of guys I'm looking forward to seeing tonight. There's a lot of battles tonight. This Dolphins game.
Why wouldn't you do the regular season?
I don't like going to regular season games. And to be quite honest, I'm not going to the game tonight either. I'm just going to I'm going to be in Tampa, but I'm not going to the game tonight. I can't imagine that place is going to be very full tonight. Raymond James Stadium. I'm guessing 40, 50 people on the sidelines, nobody in the stands.
Have a little party, man. Have a good time.
There's going to be more people at Portillo's than there's going to be at Raymond
That's
James
where
Stadium.
I'm going to be, by the way.
Right.
What are you going to talk about? Because you and Tobin will have a 4-hour pregame tonight. Do you have storylines? Is there anything beyond Mike White and Skylar Thompson?
Not that there is. There's definitely more stuff beyond Mike White and Skylar Thompson. What I will say is, I know we've kind of wrapped up that conversation on our show yesterday with Ben Bolin and then Crowder as well, but we're probably going to spend a little bit of time on Flo and Tua. I think that was kind of I just think that was like the big storyline of the week. I'm looking at the outline. Tobin always puts together an outline, and the first thing on the docket is Tua makes headlines calling Brian Flores a terrible person on the Dan Le Batard show. So
I would go with that. That's a good. You get a good hour out of that at least.
Oh, easy. Hopefully 2. But recapping.
I was going to say, just to run past the Mike White Skyler thing, I think that we're just assuming that no other quarterback is going to be available that they're intrigued by. I
mentioned Taylor Heineke yesterday. You laughed me right off the show.
Heineke wasn't the name I was looking for. I just said that. If you're saying it's Tua, Skyler, White, or Tua, White, Skyler, whatever, I don't know if that's 100% correct.
I can't imagine that's going to be the case, Crowder. Like, I think it's either going to be Skylar Thompson or Mike White as your backup, and maybe one of those guys gets moved. I can't see either of those guys getting cut or waived. Maybe they get traded, and then the Dolphins bring in a third quarterback elsewhere. But your backup, your number
one of
2
those
quarterback
guys
is going to be one of those guys.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. No, one of them are going to be your backup. I'm just that quarterback room just being is what it is. I can see them moving on, especially if it's not Mike White. Mike White's an older dude with making what, $4 million a year, whatever it is. Like Skyler's better than him. He's younger.
I don't think he's that much older. I think he's like 2 years older than Skyler.
Yeah, if guys are available, and I know Tannehill name is not very intriguing to South Floridians, but I take Tanny.
I'll give you, and there really is no training camp. There's no practice. There's a game tonight. But the training camp report is sponsored by Miami-Dade County Public Schools Technical Colleges. Are you ready to level up your career game? MDCPS Technical Colleges have got you covered. Choose from tons of programs, learn from top-notch certified instructors, and get real-world experience. And the best part, you can graduate debt-free in just 1 to 2 years. If you're ready to make the move, log on to careerinayear.com or call 305-558-8000. MDCPS Technical Colleges, your best choice for a brighter future. This is what David Fioronis writes in the Sun Sentinel about tonight. To many, it's a meaningless preseason game that doesn't count in the standings. For fringe NFL roster players, it could be the most important action they ever see on a football field. Miami Dolphins preseason finale against the Buccaneers, 7:30 p.m. kickoff tonight, Raymond James Stadium, will serve as the lasting impression for players vying for the final active roster spots. We know the NFL cuts have to be made by 4 p.m. on Tuesday. Furones writes, some may boost themselves into a role based on what they put on display. Others may not make Miami's 53-man active roster, but their performance could earn them a job with another team or on a spot on a 16-player practice squad. It can go up to 17 if a team has an international player, which the Dolphins do in offensive tackle Bayron Matos from the Dominican Republic. There's jobs to be won, Coach Mike McDaniel said ahead of the Dolphins practice on Thursday in Tampa. Take last year's preseason finale. This is David Furones writing against the Jags for an example of the final exhibition sealing a roster spot. Running back Chris Brooks ran for 2 touchdowns, and days later, he found himself earning a job on the team. Players on the verge know it this year. It's really important, said Eric Ezukama, who was the 2022 fourth-round pick and has barely seen regular season action in his first 2 NFL seasons. His 2023 campaign was cut short due to a neck injury, and he missed time with a minor injury in this training camp. Being out, it was tough, but coming back and being able to wrap my arms around the younger guys and listen to the vets, just knowing that when cuts happen, some guys you won't see again, it's just taking every opportunity and taking all the moments in. For Ezukama, at least, he already made a big splash with his performance in last Saturday's exhibition game against the Commanders with 5 receptions for 65 yards. It was a big relief, honestly, he said. It's like just waiting since week 2 of last year against the Patriots, that being my last game, just kind of having self-doubt sometimes, being able to go back in and make plays. It was a good feeling, and you kind of know that you still got it. And David Furones finishes up writing that, Ezukama, Barrios, you've got Malik Washington. They all appear to be in good positions to make the roster behind Hill, Waddle, and Odell Beckham Jr. River Craycraft, we know, will be out with the injury. He says a 4th running back spot appears to be coming down to veteran Jeff Wilson Jr. and the aforementioned Chris Brooks, who happens to have been in concussion protocol since the game against Washington. He writes, then there are a slew of defensive tackles and edge rushers trying to claim their roles. New defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver appears primed to rotate bodies in his defensive front, keep them fresh. A wave of young defensive backs who made plays throughout camp. Cornerbacks Ethan Bonner, Storm Duck, Jimmy's favorite, Jason Mader, and Isaiah Johnson. Safeties Patrick McMorris and Mark Perry, all trying to snag roster spots behind those secure in their jobs. Just think it's interesting when he writes at the beginning of that tonight's game, as much as we're poo-pooing it, I'm literally laughing. Solana's like, there's going to be more people at Portillo's than at the game. We're going, this means nothing. And Furones, in that first couple of sentences, this might be the most important game in the history of some of these guys' careers. And his example of Chris Brooks last season, Skylar Thompson, too, a couple seasons ago. Unbelievable preseason. All of a sudden, this 7th-round pick is on your radar. Chris Brooks last season, it's like, oh, that guy looks like he can do it. And we know all the time, whether it's gambling or just life, recency bias plays a role in stuff. So tonight, someone might make what's the difference, Crowder, between making an NFL roster and not making an NFL roster? I love you. Life-changing difference.
I just looked it up. League minimum this year is $795,000. That's for the guys that don't even dress. This is for the bottom of the barrel. If you have a Dolphin jersey on and you're on the roster, you're making almost $800,000 a year. You're the top 5% of the world in earnings. There's some guys after tonight will never put a football helmet on again the rest of their lives.
Right.
And to be honest, what David Furones is saying is 8 probably. 8 positions to be won, and there's about 40 guys that are going to get cut. So it's 40 guys with 8 spots left. This is musical chairs of life, and you better turn that corner fast and throw your butt down in one of these seats, because you could be living in your mom's basement or you could be making $800,000 a year.
There's such a difference.
I watched it.
If you make a roster then even when you're waived, other NFL teams know you've made a roster. If you never make a roster and you're always the guy who's trying to make his first roster, it's so much more difficult. So when you talk about what the minimum salary is, yeah, you make that roster tonight, you probably get 2 or 3 seasons at least of minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're making a couple $1 million over the next 3 years. You don't play much, but man, that's a pretty nice head start in life before you have to go find a real job.
There's 20 guys on both sides of the ball that are already on the team. Like, there's no way you're going into week 3 or third game of the regular season saying, who can Jalen Ramsey and Fuller play? Are we okay at safety? No, you have to be okay at this point. But you say it 20, 20, 40, 13 spots, then it's a kicker, it's a punter, it's a long snapper. Yeah, it's single-digit spots that there's 40 guys waiting on, and I've watched it. We've talked about it. Like, they were great human beings that I knew were not going to be in the NFL. You're not big enough. You're not fast enough. You're not violent enough. You're really not good, but you're great. I enjoy going to Ale House with you. Yeah. Listen, let's go to Twin Peaks and have a beer. What are you going to do next week? Oh, I'm going to be in the league. No, you're not. You're going to do something else. Let's work on the after football experience. But yeah, it's a tough time of year. And in the locker room, it's weird because right now, the lockers are full. In a couple days, half the lockers are going to be empty. And you'd be like, oh, damn, I wonder what Ed's doing. I can't call him. I got to work.
Anyway, there is something on the line for tonight. While I may not be there at Raymond James, there is something on the line tonight.
You bring up, though, the final preseason game. You guys remember this happened in 2021 before the McDaniel era? Reed Sinnett. Do either of you guys remember?
Yeah,
the Sinnett to win it game.
Yeah.
Dolphins. I was in Cincy. Dolphins are playing the Bengals' final preseason game, and they're down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Reed Sinnett leads, drives to come back, and he threw a Hail Mary at the end to win the game. He ended up throwing 343 yards, half of which came on the final 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, the game-winning touchdown. Because of that, not only did he get a roster spot with the Dolphins, he got multiple opportunities in the NFL. Now I'm just looking at his bio. He's been playing he's on the Houston Roughnecks, played for the Brahmas. Because of that one game and that one quarter, he probably got more money in the NFL and only 2 or 3 opportunities with teams and never actually played anywhere.
But to this day,
anywhere.
He's still playing football professionally while it's not in the NFL, maybe. That one game catapulted him for, 10 years of making decent money playing professional football.
The fourth quarter of this game, Hawk, you're going to be in Tampa. If this really, I know we joke, if this was a regular season game, you're going up there to see your son, and you could get tickets to the Dolphins-Bucs in Tampa. That's exciting. We don't look at it the way that the league does. Do you understand there's going to be multiple people from 32 teams watching every snap of this game, watching every position out there? We're doing the training camp tour with the podcast thing. I talked to some of these regional scouts. They're like, I watch 14 hours of film a day. I watch practice film from people. Think about that. You're watching a practice from another team because you have a friend there and he can give you the footage. Hey, we can't keep this defensive tackle, but you want to check him out on one-on-ones? It means something to these people.
And that's what their agents are telling them too, by the way, is, hey, we know the math doesn't work here, but your performance tonight, there's 31 other teams that I can call and get you on that roster.
We speak in a macro thought of sports and team fandom. To these individual humans, to you, like we just said it, think about the fact that I could go home. I'm not in college anymore. I can now go home and try to pursue a entry-level job at whatever my major was, or I could be making $800,000 as a Dolphin next week. That's what some of these guys' lives are about to be here in about 3 days. I know it is what it is. I'm emotionally numb to it, but that's exactly what's going on.
I just like the way Furonis wrote it. Biggest game, you think biggest game ever is always going to be the Super Bowl. For some guys, this literally is the biggest game of their career. And it happens tonight. All right, let's get headlines here for the start of the show. Headlines with Alejandro Solana.
driven by the new. You see, I'm rocking my Dolphins jersey today, fella. You see what
Ready
number
to
I'm wearing?
go, man.
Whose
That's
jersey
Tua.
this
You're
is?
the biggest Tua fan in South Florida.
It's my QB. That's my quarterback.
He also has jerseys for
Yes,
Reed
Tua.
Sinnett and Skylar Thompson.
I do.
And Mario Chalmers should have took the shot from Ray Allen. This dude's weird.
He actually does have a jersey from Chad Henne. That's no
I literally
joke.
do. Yeah.
You
I know.
excited on Henne. That's weird to me. I've told you that before.
I've never bought into a player more than I bought into Chad Henne. That's not a joke. I genuinely believed he was going to
Well,
be.
you kind of bought into Gabe Vincent a lot.
That's true. That's
I
true.
believe you bought into who was the guy that was overweight all the time, and then Spo and Riley just had enough of him.
James Johnson.
James Johnson.
Yeah. Love James.
Bought into him.
Yeah, I
I
did.
loved Earl Barron.
Oh, I did. I did.
What was the dude that had one dunk game one? And
James
Oh,
Ennis.
James Ennis. Yeah.
James Ennis. Goodness
Yeah,
gracious.
yeah,
I hated
yeah,
those 2 days.
I have a James Ennis jersey, actually.
Of course. Who doesn't?
Up high. Yeah. Yeah. I also have a Kenny Hasbrook. I have a Kenny
Crowder.
Hasbrook jersey, too.
Crowder, you don't know what dominance is. His name is James Ennis, Solana.
We'll always have that one play, though.